the portrayal of Asian women is most of the time as prostitutes or as innocent schoolgirls or as dragon ladies. And you know, we're much more complex than that.
Star violinist Jennifer Koh has received many of classical music's highest honours. More recently, the Korean-American violinist has turned her attention to social justice issues. The tipping point for her was the fatal shooting in Atlanta, Georgia in March 2021, during which 6 Asian women were killed.
We're nearing the 1-year anniversary of 6 Asian American women being shot to death, where immediately the narrative of the shooter was released. And I will challenge every viewer to remember the names of the women who were actually killed. Anybody who made the effort to know their names and to remember their names and to acknowledge them as human beings.
Koh decided to challenge social justice values within the classical music world. She published a piece in the New York Times where she called, quote, on classical music to make space for artists of Asian descent who remain marginalized in the field. She dug into data from the League of American Orchestras, which showed that 86.8% of orchestral musicians are white, with only 9.1% of Asian descent.
I had an experience with a conductor who was of European descent, and when he saw me, he said, "Oh, there's no way you could ever understand Mozart or Schubert because you're Chinese and you trained in the US." I'm Korean American, first of all, so there's a difference. Nobody would say Italians are the same as Germans or the same as French, so it's different culture and country. But that doesn't, matter. We see that also right now in the kind of eruption of violent racism against Asian Americans, that everybody is the same, that anybody from East Asia is the same, right? So yeah, I've heard it throughout my career. Oh, and the really funny thing was he had just finished conducting a Tchaikovsky symphony, and he was not actually Russian, so that was, to me, was humorous.
Koh has managed to reach the loftiest of heights of classical music. She gets star billing at the Kennedy Center, has played with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra and the New York Philharmonic. In May, she'll receive an honorary doctorate at the Cleveland Institute of Music. But it's certainly not been easy. For the past decade, Koh has teamed up with composer Missy Mazzoli, who is working to champion women's position within classical music.
You don't see a lot of women holding positions of power, in the classical music field. I think that is changing, not fast enough for me, but things are better than they were 20 years ago when I left school, but there's still a long way to go. So as a young person, you look and when you don't see role models, it's almost impossible to imagine a future for yourself in that field. So I really want to get to a place where the field is saturated with female conductors and composers, women at every level, so that just the fact that they're a woman isn't anything to talk about.